Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, it will be one that focuses on a storm potential brewing out further into the long range. So I will be going over the brief cool down, or the cold blast of air that I've been talking about for a while. So if you want to just skip to the part of the video where I talk about the storm, you skip forward a bit. You could just use a little scroll bar. I'll probably try talking about the storm around the 4 to 5 minute mark. But for the first 4 minutes, I will focus on a cooldown. Now, this storm system is, again, as I mentioned, still a little bit away. It is around anywhere from 180 to 220 hours away. Now, this thing would be bringing quite a bit of snow with it if it were to occur the way the models are showing it. Now, I won't be, calling this a winter. Actually, I might just call it a snowstorm because at this point, if it does occur, which again, that's kind of the big question. If it does occur, it's most likely going to bring snow. It doesn't have to be any extraordinary cold air for that to happen. It is already early October, so I'll be just kind of diving in on that. I know that some people, don't like when it's a bit longer out and speculative, but I think there's a lot of weather geeks on here, weather enthusiasts that just kind of like this, anticipation kind of based talking. And yeah, it could be like the first big one of the season, so that's always makes it a lot more exciting. And yeah, so let's just dive into this and start talking about why I am, kind of speculating that this thing has a pretty good chance of actually forming. So do note that we are talking about a cooldown in a short range. So notice that there are the states of North Dakota and South Dakota under freeze warnings, or sorry, freeze watches. So these are eventually going to go into freeze warnings unless they're going to be revised by the National Weather Service. But at this point, it doesn't look likely. The cold air that's going to be coming in is going to be very cold. So this isn't going to be a frost. This is going to be a freeze, thing that pretty much kills even the cold hardy plants. All the harvests and everything are pretty much probably going to be done right now. I don't know exactly how, dried up corn stalks, how they get affected by this, but I assume they shouldn't get too hit hard by that because the weather, they're already dried up at that point. But if you have any farmers or whatnot that could let me know, that'd be interesting because I do know, that around this time farmers are pretty much, well into the night harvesting whatever they could. And if it, if the cold isn't a bother really, then besides that, the weather's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Mostly sunny the next few days. It's just that it's going to be downright cold. Thursday night, 22 degrees. So anything that is still alive is going to get obviously frostbitten. And yeah, that's just something to note worth. Again, the whole states, but this won't be, the whole states of both Dakotas, but this won't just be limited to these states. Minnesota, Wisconsin, you'll see these areas lit up in freeze watches and for frost advisories tomorrow. Probably at this time, let's just click on La Crosse. I'm just clicking here because random location. Notice the temperature's 35, 31 frost. They're definitely, I don't know if they're going to put up a watch or warning because I know that some of these areas already did get frostbitten this year. So I think they do that though for the first few ones. So that will probably, still be lit up in areas with that. I know that for my area, they definitely will be putting a frost advisory or freeze warning. Because we haven't had one yet, at least in my area. I do know that in northern Illinois there may have been some spotty areas. And you can see that tomorrow, very warm, though it gets very cool during the night. Not frost, but the biggest chance is right here. Notice that near the city, I clicked kind of in the vicinity of where I live, 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not going to be cold enough, but you move just a little bit outside of the city into the neighboring counties, and you could see that the temperature 32, that's going to kill most warm-loving plants. So that is that. I want to show you, well, not that is that. I kind of want to go a little bit more into this and show you some of the modeling guidance and show you how cold or cool it could actually get. So again, today was actually a beautiful day. I walked outside and it was like 75 degrees. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was a stunning day, and that will continue for a good portion of the United States tomorrow. Though notice that not everyone. Notice that the northern United States, again, both the Dakotas are going to be already seeing a much cooler day tomorrow during the the afternoon hours, only getting up to the 40s. And anywhere south of that is still warm. But you can see Minnesota, Wisconsin getting already pretty chilly, and tomorrow night definitely going to be chilly for a lot of areas. Again, similar to the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and you can see during the day on Friday, a lot of areas do not get above the 50s across the Midwest and Great Lakes. Areas that could be in the days coming up, tomorrow and the day after in the 70s. So it's going to be a real kind of change up. And notice that during the night, these are the areas that probably, if you see your area in the blue, it might not necessarily get 28 degrees in Iowa. All right, so this may be a bit inaccurate. I'm just saying that because I don't want you to pay too much attention to the exact degree specification. But because this one shows what, 26, 27. That may be a bit aggressive for some areas, though. Generally, anywhere in that kind of darker blue, obviously where the blue is, expect at least a frost, which is 34, 33 degrees, and anywhere you could see those kind of 37, 39, into Pennsylvania, you're also kind of in that risk. And notice that further west into the plains on Saturday, stuff warms back up, so your kind of threat is over, but it sits and continues cooling off into the nighttime hours for now further eastward. Notice this only takes us out to 84 hours and 1 a.m. So if I go to a longer range model, you can see that it shows us the biggest risk for Ohio, Indiana, Michigan is going to be on Saturday into Sunday night, and then for the inland and northeast, or not inland, kind of the just New England and further east and northeast, you can see Pennsylvania, probably your coolest night is going to be Saturday into Monday. So that is definitely Sunday into Monday. And after that, things warm up pretty quickly, which set the stage for our potential storm system that I was talking about. So let me start talking about that next, this big storm system. So if you recall, the last few videos I've been talking about a secondary cool down, right? One that could occur in the next few days, which is going to most likely occur at this point, actually probably for 100%. That's the one I was just going over. The freeze watches that are being issued are prompted by that right now. And notice that as I push this forward, we do see that same feature that the European, if you recall, has been extremely consistent about. Now, the European it continues its consistency, but it's slightly different now. It doesn't really show as stunning of a cool down, and it shows more of a kind of a system that digs into the United States and brings quite a bit of snow into the western United States and potentially the plain states, and develops a very large storm that brings a lot of rain and windy conditions eastward. So the GFS, again, is not my favorite one in this scenario because it has been the model that's been less consistent. Do note though that it does bring down a system, does bring some showery activity, some snowy conditions. Nothing incredible though. I wouldn't call this a snowstorm, or maybe a storm. But the European at the same time frame, around 180 hours, develops a much stronger system. Though I do want to show you both of these models. Do note that there most likely will be a cool off just further northward, or I should say, just a troughing feature. And this potentially is a pretty strong cold front that is out ahead of this, and the European kind of combines this with the system over here in a fashion that I'll show you in just a little bit, because it's very hard to visualize it with a model that doesn't show that like the GFS. But notice that this cold front by itself could be pretty powerful, and obviously there could be a bit of snow for even areas like Quebec, Quebec City in Canada. So that is that. And notice that after that, active pattern continues. We have these storm systems, we have more enhanced moisture, more snow. So regardless of what happens, it looks to be pretty exciting and active. Though again, let me show you. Let me take you to my preferred model, the European. So this is the European model, and this is the one that has been way more consistent about that secondary cool down that I've been talking about for the past few days compared to the GFS. So this is the first one. Most models agree on it, actually all of them, in pretty stunning accuracy, and makes sense. It's only around 24 to 48 hours, especially for the northern areas eastward. This will stretch all the way into the weekend, well into the weekend, and into even early next week, the cool weather with that cool down. However, notice things will warm back up pretty quickly. We have a strong high pressure that takes charge. That is kind of what sets a lot of this moisture up. You can see kind of this moisture just hanging around here. It's waiting for it kind of to just be utilized by a storm system, and that happens. Notice we have a feature right here that the European has been very consistent about. Earlier on in the week, it seemed as if this thing would be much more powerful, much more kind of driven, and this would bring in a lot of cool air without maybe a potential storm. Now it seems as if there won't be as much widespread cool air for everyone. There will be areas that still get impacted by the cool air, but it seems more like a big storm threat has begun appearing. And this again has been especially favored by the European models and its and its relative ensembles, which I would take with more accuracy in the GFS because of its consistency. Now this doesn't show the frozen precipitation; it just shows us the precip. So some of this is snow, some of this is rain. And notice that as I push this forward, it's a lot more impressive than what the GFS was showing. If you recall, the GFS that I was showing you just a few minutes ago was showing kind of a weak storm. It wasn't anything impressive. This one inevitably will be producing a lot of snow because of its orientation across the mountains that are pretty cool at this time of the year. However, that's not all. Notice we have a strong southerly, southwesterly wind pushing pushing to the north. Now what this results is in a lot of moisture with, again, that little trough, which you could see the GFS also showed, potentially developing as a storm, and combining with this one over here, developing into a larger storm system. Now the European operational one doesn't show, I guess precisely what some of the other ensembles are showing, which I kind of want to show you that in just a second, because you can see this one does show a more impressive storm across the western United States. It still doesn't fully connect this front with that storm system, and I want to show you some ensembles that do exactly that. So let's go and click on the most up-to-date European model run. This is, again, a bunch of models. So this is, you can see 50 ensembles are in the European family. Let me just click on random ones, and I promise this wasn't like I didn't pre-scope this. This is just random. I just wanted to make this kind of show you on a let's just select 5 random ones and see what they show. Because I can't show you all at once, unfortunately, with this. So notice there's our cooldown that just passed. So let's just take this forward and look at the MSLP and precip kind of map and what it's showing. So notice here we do have that little feature that the European model shows, except it's much further towards the east, and this one is across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and not across Alberta and British Columbia. Now what this does is that it combines with that cold front much more easily and develops into a monster storm. I mean, you can see that's a very, very large system stretching from Mexico all the way into central northern Canada, and that is definitely a storm that would be an impressive one. Let's take a look at another one. Let's just take a look at P34 now, and let's show you what this one shows. So again, this is the again, a European ensemble. Again, you can see this one shows that feature further back into the west. It develops quite a bit of snow for those areas, though again, nothing too terribly impressive. Do note that we have a lot of moisture kind of across the northern peripheries here, so this eventually may not even kind of co-work with this big front over here, this one that I said some models work with, but look, it hangs around, waits around for a little bit, and eventually combines with moisture from the north and from the south and develops, you can see, into a pretty nasty storm. So you can see that the models are still pretty much all over all over the place with regards to this storm. They don't have a cohesive kind of picture of it, right? And you may be wondering, okay, if they're all over the place, and why are you saying there's a good possibility of a storm? Well, the thing is that they are still showing some signs of a big system at around a similar time frame. It's just that, again, they don't have much agreement on it, which is actually what usually happens. There usually is kind of rare to have a lot of agreement. So again, you can see there's that feature, that secondary cooldown, as I called it, and you can see that it develops a nasty cold front. This one's further east, and you can see it kind of properly connects the two, and you can see this system is absolutely extraordinary. This cold front stretches across the whole entire United States, and the actual circulation of this is way across at this point, northern Canada. So that would definitely be something that's impressive. Let's take a look at a few more models. P26. So look at that right there. We have that little feature right there. You can see drops quite a bit of snow into the Rockies, into the west right there, and develops into a pretty nasty system. Look at that right there. Boom. That's a big one. And again, this isn't terribly too far out. This is around a 200-hour time frame, which is still far out, which is why this is just a possibility. But it's definitely far out enough to start kind of speculating and talking about this. And again, most of the United States wouldn't get impacted with this by snow, but by the rain and potentially some very strong winds and a cool down behind this. But the western states could get impacted by some pretty heavy snow if this were to come true with that feature sliding across British Columbia, which you can see this model ensemble shows a very weak signature of. So now I want to show you the European operational model on this website. I already did show you the European operational model, except it was on this website, and this is where it did not differentiate between that rain and snow. And I want to show you guys the snowy side of this kind of model. Again, there's our initial cool off. I talked about that at the beginning, and this is where we see that impressive feature that the European and GFS both show, except the European develops into a much stronger kind of snow feature, develops quite a bit of snow across the Rockies, Utah, Nevada, maybe into southern the southern, early southwestern United States. So that would be definitely something interesting that could drop quite a bit of snow. You could see right there the European operational one shows quite a bit of snow across you could see Utah, Nevada. I mean, areas getting well over a foot potentially in some areas, so that's definitely something to be watching for. And by the way, the one that came out at midnight, the operational European model, did show also some similar you could see results in terms of snow. So this has been this isn't anything that's super new. The model has been showing this for a while. I don't believe it should, well, even yesterday it's been showing this, since yesterday, this decently sized storm. So yeah, this has definitely been something that has been relatively consistent from the European model. So that is something that, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on for. And again, I guess you could argue that this storm could come even in two waves, right? Because earlier I was talking about how this could be just the first part, and a second part once it moves out into the plains, and I was showing you all those fronts and systems co-working together. But you know, quite frankly, if this thing has such a large disconnect between this part and the one that potentially moves out into the plains, that could be considered as two separate storms. You could see right there that, you know, if that happens, it could leave a footprint of snow here and then potentially develop into something bigger out here. All right. Again, pretty far out, pretty speculative, but I know people like these type of videos. It was a bit disorganized, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something new, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.